today I wanted to share with you about creating a closer connection with your child, because that is something all parents want to do and want to make sure that we have a great connection with our children. So the plan for my talk is to talk a little bit about who I am, so you can get to know who I am, and then talking about why connection is important, some practical takeaways for ways you can connect with your children, how I can be a part of that solution for you, and how you can work with me, as well as any questions and answers you might have. So who am I? My name is Megan Jackson. I run a company called Joyful Mud Pals. I'm a parenting and homeschooling coach. My goal is to focus on helping guide parents from overwhelmed and frustrated towards confidence and peace. I do that in many ways. I work in my community offering free webinars such as this and Zoom calls. I also offer a lot of homeschool co-ops, and as well as several parenting courses, one of which is underway and another is starting up in June. So why is connection important? We want to make sure that we are connecting with our children, because one of the basic goals of all humans is a feeling of belonging and significance. And if we can connect with our children on a deeper level and also provide them with opportunities to feel useful and contributing to our families, then that meets those basic needs that the children have. I always focus on connection over correction. Children most often know when they've done something wrong. And any tools or tricks you might have are kind of useless, and they aren't going to work as effectively until your child feels connected, and then they will want to comply or obey or even just work with you and problem solve. Children need to feel your unconditional love, not only when they are behaving well. And that's the hardest part of parenting, is to show that unconditional love when children are at their worst. So let's focus in on that. I really like this quote from Dr. Laura Markham. She says, "No amount of parenting skills can make up for an eroded parent-child bond. It's like riding a bike up a very steep hill. By contrast, parenting with a good relationship is like coasting downhill. You still have to pay attention and stay on the road. And twists and turns certainly arise, but the momentum is with you." So one thing I want to remind us, though, is that you will have to assume that you need to put in a significant amount of time and effort to maintain and build a healthy relationship. This is not only true with a parent-child relationship, but if you think about all relationships in your life, they require a give and take and your constant attention. It's not an out of sight, out of mind type of thing, or a once in a while. You also can't just feed into them once a week and then it maintains that. But take heart, it is never too late to work on that, to improve and to grow. When should you connect? Ideally, all the time. But some main points that are really going to improve and hit that connection is anytime you are apart from your child, physically or emotionally, it's a really great opportunity to reconnect. And I say physically and emotionally because physically, things like sleeping or when you're busy out of the house, coming home from school, but emotionally too, when you've just had an argument or a challenging time with that child. Transitions throughout the day are a perfect time to work on your relationship with your child. Sorry. Excuse me. So how can I connect with your child? These are just a few really, really simple ones. Getting down at your child's level, especially if they're younger, is hugely effective. We don't often think about that, but especially when you're trying to correct a child, you can appear really big and scary and intimidating. And if you get down at their level or even just slightly lower, like in the picture, then it helps you to be more warm and inviting and meet them at their level. Always remember to listen before you speak. That's a huge one. I see quotes everywhere. It's even in the Bible to listen, be slow to speak. Actually, it's quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. We want to have our children feel that they are being heard. Sometimes even the simplest act of being heard by you will satisfy that need in them to come to you, whether it's even like perceived tattling or just sharing their experience. When they feel heard, it's just so calming and relieving for them. It validates their feelings. Now, validation doesn't mean specifically agreeing with them, but it means hearing their perspective and understanding their side of the story. Again, we want to connect before correction, especially if everybody is really worked up, yourself or your child. You might need a cooling off time before you address any problem solving. And always lots of hugs and smiles throughout the day. Now let's get deeper into this and some more practical things. If you have any questions, feel free to stick that in the chat or save your questions till the end. One great way to make a connection with children is to have your own family rituals. Those are special, fond memories that they are going to have and want to include with their own children as well. So some things might be when you first wake up, you have some extra snuggle time, or a special bed routine. Lots of hugs and smiles, a fun handshake that's just unique for your family or that child. Even the simple ritual or daily thing of having an after-school snack. That's something they're going to treasure and remember. That's an important time to just have a conversation, make it around food, gather together before jumping into all the tasks of the afternoon. Extra attention is always important. Right before a perceived time of separation, you want to fill their bucket. There's lots of stories out there, children's books as well, about filling your bucket. And what I mean by that is to make sure that they've had extra attention, extra love, extra hugs, so that they're feeling positive and good, and then they can carry that with them when they aren't with you. Some situations of separation might be bedtime or naps, school, or if you're working, making supper. It's a perceived time of separation. You might physically be there in the kitchen, but your mind is distracted. If you're on a phone call or a conference call, again, you might be in the house, but you aren't giving them your undivided attention. Also, before you go grocery shopping, you want to fill them up with extra attention before you leave and go out for a time. Physical connection is also really important. Well, wearing young ones is a great way to connect with them. Also, lots of hugs, a gentle touch. If you're talking to a teen or a preteen, just put your hand on their shoulder when you're talking to them, look them in the eye. That means so much more to them than calling them from the couch or shouting at them from another room. Lots of snuggles, and roughhousing is such a fun way. It relieves tension, gets them giggling. I had a special note about tickling though. That is great and fun, but be aware that induces some a different type of nervous system than the rough housing, because you can't stop that as easily. So some children might be laughing, but they really want you to stop, but it's a different nervous system that's being used, and they're uncontrollably laughing. Can also make them too hyper, and then you have to work on calming them down. So just be aware of that one. It's also important to turn off technology and spend actual time with your family, giving your child your full attention. That might mean putting down the phone. If they come in while you're working, turn around and face them. They can tell if they have half your attention, and they'll keep at you and keep bugging you until they have your full attention. Spending time together is hugely important. There's a lot of research that's gone into that. If you read the book, Hold On to Your Child, and other research done, they find that families who spend even one night a week having dinner together, the teens are feeling way more connected to their family and their family values, and focus, and it can help you get them back, because especially as they get older, they now want to focus their attention on their friends. And then you have a bunch of teens all trying to parent and give each other the attention that they really should be getting from their parents still. So family dinners are important. Playing games together, having a board game night, story time. I still read to my older children every night. Going outside, going for hikes, and movie night is another one that's a great way to have a special movie night. You should want your home to be warm, relaxing, and fun. And if it's full of tension and stress, that's where we really need to focus on what is it that you want your house to feel? What do you want your children to remember when they grow up about their experience with you? And make that your long-term goal. Then your child will be more open and willing to talk to you when things aren't going well. They'll also be more open to correction if that's what needs to happen. And inviting others into your home, making your home a safe place for all their friends too, is another wonderful one. Getting into your child's world is amazing if you can do that. So take an interest in what they're into. What are their hobbies and interests? You might not understand and say, oh my gosh, my child spends all their time on video games. What is that video game? What's the storyline? Who are some of the characters? Maybe you might even find some really cool article or a video about something they're interested in, and you can share that with them. You might begin to see their hobbies and interests in a different light, and instead of feeling sometimes that they're wasting their time, that really there's a lot of creativity and interest that goes into it. You might even be able to find some new activities and interests that you can do together. My boys and I am really personally into crafts. I love sewing and knitting, and I've taught that to my boys, but that's not really their thing. They're currently into Minecraft. One of them's into cars and engines. He's constantly teaching me new things. But something we'd love to do together is baking. And we often just have, we do our own version of those baking cook-off shows, and everyone makes their own concoction. And then we rate them and test them and get into all the funny voices that they use with all the rich language, like the texture and moisture. It's a lot of fun. Special time is one I really wanted to point out. That's something I recommend for all families if you're able to, without feeling guilty if that's not where you're at the moment for your family. Special time is different than just one-off individual attention that you can give your children. It's something planned that you try to do regularly every day or every week. That way a child knows that their special time is coming up. It's like a date with your child. They know how long they have. Ideally, 20 to 30 minutes is good length of time. Up to an hour is great. You want to let the child decide the activity, because then they take ownership of it. They see the value and the connection with you. I don't always recommend movies and things like that because it's more passive. I would go with connective activities such as playing Lego or Barbies or ponies, building blocks. Try not to ask too many questions. Like I said, this is a time for them to just enjoy being with you. But the more often you do that, you'll find that they open up and share things that are on their mind and things that are troubling them. Be as consistent as possible, even if that's once a week, if that's what you can manage. And like I said, just start small and let your kids know that that's something that you'd like to try and see how it goes. You might find when you first start doing this that your child gets really upset when they know that special time is over, because they are really enjoying that connection with you. You can be kind and firm, reminding them that they will have special time again, that you're still here playing with them, but that you might need to give some attention to other things that are going on in the house. And again, remember, during special time, if you could put the phone away, that would be ideal. I understand that a lot of you are on call and have things come in. So just do your best. That's all we can do. I really like focusing and pointing out the 5 love languages that Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell have. There's an adult version of the book, and there's also a children's version, which is really neat. They started with the adult version, and I guess a lot of people realized how valuable that would be. So the 5 love languages that they point out are gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, and quality time. And you probably can figure out which of those your child really appreciates the most, or try to touch at least a few of those throughout the days and weeks. For example, one of my sons really loves gifts. It makes him feel like on top of the world if we give him something. Now, of course, I can't be giving him something all the time, but when I do, it's really special and personalized to him. Sometimes the gift I might give him might be that I found some really cool video on something that he's interested in. It feels like, hey, I put in the effort to find something special that's just for him. And often it's something small. It could be a flower or a rock. You could draw pictures. For words of affirmation, try to work on being positive. There's a big difference between encouragement and praise as well. Encouragement focuses on their effort and what they've done, rather than just praise, saying, yay, good boy, good girl, you can do it. That seems rather superficial, and then they become a praise junkie. So you really want to make your words of affirmation special and personalized. Tell them what you noticed. Hey, I really appreciated that you emptied the dishwasher so quickly today. Thank you. That's a big help for the whole family. That goes a longer way in your child's mind than just, great job, or you can do it. Physical touch we talked about as well. Lots of hugs, snuggles, high fives, a touch on the shoulder, ruffling their hair. Just some children don't like to be touched. For me, personally, that's not my thing at all. But I've had to overcome that for the sake of my very active boys. And I let them pile on me and cuddle. And then they know when mommy's done and I need them off. Quality time is another one. It's not quantity, but it's quality. Oh, I skipped acts of service. Sorry. I just reading this. Acts of service is another huge one. My eldest, that's definitely his love language. And he it means so much to him if he's having a busy day and I do one of his chores for him and say, hey, I noticed that you've got a lot going on and I've done this for you. It fills him right up. He gives me a huge hug. It's like, wow, I can't believe you just went and did that for me. That means so much. So doing things for them, helping them, that goes a really long way for certain people. I know that's my love language as well. And again, quality time, special time will really mean a lot more to those children whose quality time is their love language. If you can with those ones, spend extra time at bedtime. Just lay on the bed and chat about the day. If you can give your children, I know bedtimes are crazy, but if you can give your child a few minutes at the end of the day to just unload and find out how their day's been going, that is huge. And we cannot talk about connection without repair. That already has happened to me today just before coming to this webinar. And so I know how important that is. Don't let little rifts build up. Be sure to take the time to repair. In doing so, it might be humbling, but you are modeling what a healthy relationship looks like. We often ask our children to go and apologize to their siblings, but we're not showing that and modeling that ourselves. And I'll just be personal and share right before this, we're trying to make my husband a birthday cake today. And I asked one of my boys to make the cake. And I was trying to send out email reminders to all of you that the Zoom call was coming up. And I snapped. And I was, you know, how do you need, please don't need me. I'm doing something important. And he was getting upset. And I recognized that, and I stopped, and I said, you know, I just spoke to you really rudely, man, and I'm sorry that I let my issues get the better of me. I was distracted, and I'm really sorry. And we were able to move forward and work as a team and get everything done. So now that I've shared some ways that you can connect, I'd love to hear in the chat which of those is your favorite or which is something you might be able to implement today. Something that's inspired you, that you feel, hey, I haven't done that in a while. So put that in the chat now for everyone to see. I'd love to know what takeaway you're going to get from here. And I'd love to be able to work with you and your family. So parenting, I'm a parenting and homeschooling coach. I have a new course called Peace for the Weary Mom that starts in June. Right now we have our first session going on. And what that entails is, and that's the information about Peace for the Weary Mom if you wanted to go there. What that looks like, practically speaking, is that I have a welcome call for everybody to find out, get to know you a little bit, find out what your immediate pressing needs are as a family. Then there are 4 weeks where each week you are given, I send you an email with journal prompts and relevant information, articles and topics. We talk about connection first, that's our first week. Our second week is all about emotion coaching. We have a whole week about siblings as well as communication. And our last week is all about the parents and your own self-care and working through your own self-regulation. But on top of that, what makes my course different, instead of having a prescribed thing like most online parenting courses, you get a lot of personal interaction with me. So we do our own Zoom calls. I have a private Facebook group for the course and weekly check-ins. There also, I send articles based on our Zoom call that are group sessions. I'll come up with specific things that are brought up in the group. So each session that I do this, there might be different things that are alive in that group. And if one week everyone's talking about chores and how can I manage chores, then the next day you can expect some information just on chores from me. So I listen to the replays of our chat and I make sure I'm targeting your specific needs. So I hear in the comments here, it says that acts of service, definitely. If you can recognize what your children, what their love language is, that's huge, because then you're not kind of hit and miss all over the place. Also, yeah, the book, Love Languages. So some people really, if you're not sure, you could also just try a bit of everything, because we all really do appreciate all acts of service, or I mean, all the different ways of connecting with your child. Small rituals, I like that one, definitely. And oh, we have someone from my Peace from the Weary Mom group. Thank you for sharing about that. Definitely, I'm glad that you are benefiting from that. So you can check that out at Peace for the Weary Mom. You can also connect with me in any way. I do more than just parenting courses as well, because our lives are not separate. We can't just compartmentalize. I work from home. I run 2 businesses, parenting, and also we have an electrical company that I do all the office work for. So I totally understand that work from home situation. I also am a homeschooling mom and do a lot in the homeschooling community. We have a free call coming up on Monday. If you want more information, let me know. That is all about your alternative educational options coming for right now and moving into the fall, because I know that there's a lot of parents who are unsure of what that public school situation is going to look like. Some are making new choices. So I want to make sure that you are well equipped. Finally, questions and answers, and how can you connect with me? So if you have any questions, put those in the chat, or you can stay on a little longer after the recording. You can connect with me at my website, joyfulmudpuddles.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Joyful Mud Puddles, and I can also be searched under Megan Jackson on LinkedIn. And I have a YouTube channel that I didn't post, and I'm on Pinterest. So I'm everywhere. You can't miss me. Something I forgot to mention when I was talking about how I can help you. If you are at all interested in Peace for the Weary Mom or working with me in any capacity, if you contact me and register before this Sunday at midnight, for those only that are registered for this course, I'm offering you a bonus 1 hour of coaching with me. So if you register for a course with me by Sunday at midnight, then I will automatically add in 1 hour of extra coaching with me that you can use at any time. So make sure that if you're registered for this or the replay, that you connect with me as soon as possible. Don't let that slide. So if anyone has any questions now, put those in the chat and I'll address them. Otherwise, I will just see if anyone has any questions. So I really like looking into what works and what doesn't work for your kids. Something what you can do is make yourself a journal and write down what things you have tried and what worked, how they reacted. Journaling is something I really recommend, because then you can see how your journey's going. I do that with our Peace for the Weary Mom group. I also highly recommend that when we talk about emotion coaching and coping skills. So which coping skills work, which don't, and I'll be probably organizing a separate webinar for that coming up. So when apologies are insincere, what do you suggest? That's a great question. When the apology is insincere from a child, I recommend a cooling off period and then readdressing that later when they're calm. You also want to think about the bigger picture. Sometimes we force apologies, or a child says sorry, and maybe it was an issue that in hindsight wasn't really worth the battle. So you want to pick your battles, and sometimes just take that apology and go on. But if it's something you really feel that is important and something that you really want to make sure you address with your child, I'd give it some time and then go back to it, and say, hey, you know, I appreciate the apology, but it still stuck with me, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to talk to me about that. And then share your side, share how it affected you, listen to them and where they were coming from. Maybe they had a lot going on that day and they just blew up on you and they didn't mean it. And if it's something that happens again and again, then maybe there could be a bigger picture. Maybe they don't quite get how that affects other people and why they should care. And that's something you might need to be direct about. Some kids have different perceptions of the world. Some of children are on different spectrums or have different executive functioning or ADHD or autism. Like, there's all different things that come into play with kids. So that's a hard one to answer right now. But if it's a repeated action that you really don't think that the child's getting how their behavior affects others, you might want to work on some social stories and really be a bit more direct and point out why we need to do this, or why it's important to treat others the way you want to be treated. Sometimes what I do is I bring it to the child's point of view. So for example, my son really was mean to his brother the other day. And when he was calm enough, I talked to him and said, you know, that situation has happened to you before. How do you react when that happens to you? And he was like, he connected with that and said, oh my gosh, I would flip out and I would be so mad. And then we talked about, well, what works for you? Like, what would you want someone to do if it was that situation happened to you? And he noticed that he would want some time alone and that he would want a sincere apology. And then I said, well, how can you do that for your brother? And that sort of worked for the connection piece for him. But now he's going on 12. My 9-year-old doesn't connect. He's as well with that, and definitely not my 4-year-old. So keep trying. It might take time. Our children's brains are still developing well into their 20s. So there, like I said, it's never too late, but it takes consistency. So I'm not seeing any more questions popping up. This is going to end the replay and recorded part of the webinar. I want to thank you all so much for coming, for investing in your children, and for taking the time to be such an amazing caregiver and learning about ways that you can connect with your children. And I will make sure I check out any more questions that pop up and address you individually, because I do have your emails. If you want to make sure that you're on my newsletter, I've got anyone who said yes on the Zoom registration, and I'd love to make sure I connect with you. I'm going to stay on a little longer after the recording is done.